Declawing Cats, Part 1. Declawing is a surgery, and so the very first things I'm going to go over are what the surgery is. It's called an onychectomy, the guillotine and scalpel method, then the laser method, and then what is a tendonectomy. First, onychectomy. It's a big fancy word for amputation of the third phalanx. That's the very end bone in your fingers from the first knuckle to your fingertip. That's where it is on you. Declawing is not like a nail trim. It's a surgery. It's an amputation, actually. Here is a comparison of the bones. You can see the very tips of our fingers are green. They line up with the cat's claws. And everything else is color-coded too, so if you want to pause and look at that real quick. There are a couple different methods that can be used. You've got the guillotine or scalpel method, and you've got the laser method. They are slightly different, but they all do the same thing. They remove the third phalanx. And they're both different ways to perform onychectomies. So let's start with the guillotine or scalpel method. It's kind of the same thing, just depends on whether you use a guillotine trimmer or a scalpel is the only difference, is the tool you use. Here is this little picture here shows the amputation line. I think is the most important piece of this picture. You can see the two different bones that you're separating. You want to cut as neatly between them as you can. The dark portion at the very bottom of the toe is the paw pad. I know that's not labeled, but that's an important thing to realize, is that the amputation line cuts through the paw pad, and several other things as well. So the cat is under anesthesia, full anesthesia, and the surgery should be performed by a licensed veterinarian. The blade cuts through muscles, skin, tendons and ligaments, nerves, the paw pad, also blood vessels, that's not in there, and sometimes bone if that can happen by accident. The only difference between these two methods, as I mentioned before, is the tool that you use to perform the surgery, or that the veterinarian uses. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. The guillotine trimmer is specifically designed for declawing, but you can also use an ordinary scalpel. It's a bit less precise than the guillotine trimmers, and I hope this isn't too graphic for you, but the trimmers basically have a special mechanism that holds the claw in place while a blade slices through, and that gives you a bit more precision, a bit more skill, I guess. Alright, what is the laser method? It's the exact same type of surgery as any other laser surgery, laser eye surgery. Not sure about laser hair removal, but any kind of laser surgery. Light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Phew, that's a mouthful. The laser is used to carefully carve out the third phalanx without cutting into the paw pad or bone. Remember I said the paw pad was important to remember before, because if you cut a straight line going between the bones, first of all, that separation between the bones was not straight, it was a bit curvy, so if you're going to go along with the curve of the bone, there's a lot less chance that you're going to cut through the bone, and then you can clearly avoid the paw pad, which would be really helpful to the cat. But laser is a bit more expensive. It's a newer technology, so it's still coming of age, it's not as popular as the old methods. It doesn't cut the paw pad. I think that's a very important difference, that the blade methods cut through the paw pad. It's easier to make mistakes with guillotine or scalpel, and the recovery is also very important. If you cut through the paw pad, you have a painful recovery for the cat, because the paw pads are super sensitive. They have a lot of nerve endings in there, and I mean, that's what they use. It's a sensory organ, just like our hands, that's what they use to touch and sense their world, particularly the ground. But if you don't cut the paw pad, then you have a quicker recovery, less healing necessary, and less pain, which is important. So lastly, what about a tendonectomy? I know this is mentioned as an alternative for declawing a lot of times. I think it's something completely separate, but I guess it could be an alternative. What it is that you cut the flexor tendon, which is what's used to give cats their characteristic retractable claws. You know, they can have their claws kept in, or they could stick them out and use them whenever they want to. And that's labeled as number 6. It's the little orange tendon right above the paw pad. So if you just cut that, then the claws cannot be extended, and they are in the same position, and therefore the cat can't use them to scratch anything, which is kind of the purpose of declawing. So this is very unpopular. It's pretty much unknown procedure. The cat still has their claws. It's not an amputation. This is what makes it different from a non-echectomy. The toes are permanently retracted, so they cannot be moved. They can't go in and out anymore. They're just in one position. I'm sorry, I can't remember if they're in or out. But it does have the same effects as a non-echectomy. They can't scratch intentionally. The claws don't touch the ground, so I guess they're inside then. They're retracted, yeah. They don't touch the ground, and they don't get worn down, so in effect they're a lot sharper. And you still need to cut your cat's nails. There's not really a chance that they'll catch on anything unintentionally, and they can't be used intentionally to scratch either, which is the effect that I suppose most people want. Just to recap, we found out what an onychectomy is. We reviewed the guillotine and scalpel methods, basically the same thing. The laser method, which is a little bit more sophisticated and expensive. And then tendonectomy, which is not really a declaw, but it's similar. It's preventing them from using the claws. Thank you for watching. Please go see part 2. Check out the website, animalethicsri.weebly.com, for more information, and like the Facebook page if you want to support this program. Thanks, bye.